So the first thing I want to kick off here is with a video. This is from the Faculty of Education, so just a little video about online learning as an introduction, and then we will get into it.
Today's graduate student has a wide range of diverse needs, life obligations, and professional commitments. So traditional on-site brick-and-mortar graduate programs are not always the most suitable choice for every learner. This creates a restriction. And with that restriction, professionals like yourself may never reach the full potential of their academic and career goals. Let's face it, not everyone has the ability or circumstance that allows them to dedicate several years of their adult life to full-time, on-site, intensive research and face-to-face classroom instruction, just in order to obtain a graduate degree and continue on in their field. Here at Western, we believe that everyone should have access to high-quality, lifelong learning and professional development, and that no one should be hindered by the constraints of 9-to-5 working hours, parental obligations, or other life obstacles that could impede their future success. With our commitment to online learning and accessibility to education, we offer a Master of Professional Education, or MPED degree, a Doctor of Education, an EdD degree, and additional qualifications, or AQ courses, for graduates of the Bachelor's of Education program. Although our online programs offer flexibility, accessibility, and cutting-edge e-learning tools, we do so without sacrificing the academic integrity of our institution, one which employs educational scholar practitioners and leaders who are respected around the world. Our collaborative online learning environment gives students the opportunity to hone their critical thinking and inquiry skills with peers from across the globe, from a wide variety of professional and educational backgrounds, allowing them to form a community of practice virtually.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there. It goes into some other details, but gives you a little bit of an introduction as to the MPED program, why it was designed to be a fully online program, and with the structure there. So thank you for joining. We talked a little bit about the stream of the MPED that we're interested in. So we do have a mix here. Now, what I'm going to kick off with are some questions here that I'm going to answer from the perspective of a past student. As I mentioned, I did graduate, for those of you that just joined, the MPED in 2019. But again, this is meant to be more informal. So if you have a question, please pop it in the chat. We're also going to do a tour of the online forum system, portal, whatever you want to call that we use. So that may drive some questions as well. But just to kind of kick things off, get them going, I'm going to address a few of the questions you see on the screen here. So one that comes up a lot when I'm talking with prospective students, or maybe you have an offer you haven't accepted yet, is what is the workload like? What should I expect? So we tell students on average to prepare for about 10 to 15 hours of work per week. Now that can vary depending on the week. If you have an assignment due or not, maybe you're sitting a little closer to 8 hours. Maybe it's going to be over 15 because you have your big final paper due. But on average, 10 to 15 hours per week is going to be the workload. And it is an asynchronous program. So what that means, it's not live. You don't have class like Mondays from 7 to 9. There could be some synchronous sessions. In my experience, a professor may have hosted a synchronous session at the start of the course to introduce themselves. Maybe they had a guest speaker, but really it is you working away at your own pace with the commitments made that you have made for you. So for example, on a weekly basis, maybe you're responsible for doing some readings, watching a lecture that gets posted at the start of the week. And by the end of the week, you are asked to post in a forum, respond to a few peers, etc., keep the conversation going. So that was my experience, was kind of that weekly requirement. Now with online learning, what kind of assignments do you have? So we say this is an online program, and we mean that. This is an entirely online program. Okay, now TESOL, great. There's a question here. TESOL is not online. So do not be caught off guard. This is for online learning for our MPED that are not TESOL. TESOL is not an online program that is meant to be on site. So I'll touch on that in one quick second. So all of our MPED programs, with the exception of Aboriginal Education and TESOL, are fully online programs. TESOL is unique. It is a 1-year on-site program. Obviously, with COVID this year, we did have to offer that online due to travel restrictions. Perfect, thank you. But the idea would be, as soon as it is safe to bring it on campus, it will be brought on campus, okay? And Aboriginal Education, I don't think anyone here is interested in that tonight, but if you were, Just so you know, that is a hybrid program. So there's some summer component that's on site. The rest of the program is online. But that being said, I will still show, for those of you here that may be interested in TESOL, show what the portal looks like in case hypothetically the program were to start online, or that may be where you're still doing a little bit of the assignment submission and such, but it is an on-site program. It is the unique one. Okay, so the kind of assignments you have with an online program, forum posting is going to be a big chunk of that, and that's what we will do a little tour of tonight. But you will be responsible for engaging in conversation with your peers on a regular basis. So there are participation grades, etc., for those forums. As it is an online program, there are no exams. Again, with the exception of TESOL, there are no exams for this program. It is all going to be assignment forum based. So assignments you could be looking at, maybe some different kinds of papers, some research assignments, videos. So in my experience, we did have some where we would video like a mini series, mini lecture for our peers to watch. Again, not live, but we would record and upload those maybe with a PowerPoint presentation that you would share with your peers. Other kind of assignments, I had some experience with blogging. So one of our professors was really into WordPress. So we actually created like a class website and we did some blogging, which was pretty interesting because you're doing the academic component, but you're also learning this technical skill. So you learn how to do some editing and website design, etc., outside of the traditional academic component. And most of the MPEDs lead to what we call a capstone project. So it is a final culminating project that you do at the end of the second year in lieu of a thesis. So that's your big assignment. And the capstone, from my experience, it does differ a little bit depending on the different stream you're looking at, but it's really collecting everything you've learned, that theory, and applying it. So this program with the Master of Professional Education, we have it right in the title with the MPED, is designed to be integrated with your profession so that you can relate it back to what you're actually doing, whether it be in the classroom, with students, in your office team, etc. But the capstone is supposed to help you in your organization. And again, a bit of an exception to that would be applied behavior analysis. So for some of you here that are here for applied behavior analysis, again, it's a little bit different. In the second year, you have that laboratory of practice course. So you are, again, applying theory, but to your practice, to your workplace, with the BCAB guidelines, etc. So just know that that is infused throughout the entire program. And with online learning, so a lot of you have experience in online learning, which is great. Maybe you've done a course in your undergrad, maybe one of those additional qualifications or a full certificate. With COVID, it's nice in the sense that a lot of people are familiar with online learning versus talking about this a couple of years ago. It was a little bit more unique, but in my experience, I did actually really enjoy it. I had never taken an online course before, so I didn't take one in my undergrad or anything, but I really enjoyed the experience because it's so flexible. So you are able to keep working full-time, as we've mentioned before, but really also navigate that workload and how it works in your schedule. So are you really productive in the mornings? Then go ahead, do a bunch of work in the morning. Are you more of a night hawk, or you like to work on the evening, or you want to turn it off Monday to Friday and just leave it for the weekends and really focus on your coursework during the weekend? The online learning allows you to keep that flexibility, and it does still create a strong sense of community. So this kind of leads into the next question about the cohort experience. But with the cohort, how this works, we admit you into a cohort of approximately 20 students. So for some streams, we'll run more than one cohort. So for applied behavior analysis, I believe there are 4 cohorts that we run. For something like educational leadership, maybe just one, just due to demand, etc. And you're going to travel the entire 2 years with that cohort. Again, TESOL's a little bit unique. You have your actual classroom that you do the 1 year with, but for the online program, you have your cohort you will travel those 2 years with. So you do create a professional learning community where you can bounce ideas off of one another. You'll get to know what industries are they from, what kind of work experience do they have. So it does really create that same sense of community that you would get in an in-person class because you stick with them for 2 years. And the other thing I'll mention is that these professors, they're used to teaching online. Like I said, this program's always been online with MPED, so they are familiar with that, what that requires and how that kind of requires a different approach to interacting with your students as well. So some professors, yes, they would post a lecture at the start of the week. Some prefer to engage more in the chat. So throughout the week, they may probe some more questions, they may respond to your post, provide some insight. So you're still going to have that connection with your professor. And as I mentioned, they will host some synchronous sessions. Typically, it's up to the professor, but typically at the start, so you can really see their face, get to know who they are. And they do host like virtual office hours. So if you have an assignment coming up, you have some questions, maybe you're thinking of doing some schooling down the road, so you want to make that relationship with the professor for a reference or anything, you're still going to have those opportunities to do that. So don't think that, there's any lack in that sense with the program. And the last question I put on here is one that kind of comes up too, is what kind of backgrounds did people in your cohort have? And I think this comes up because people wonder, like, am I the right fit? Is online learning for me? Is it not for me, etc. And the kind of straightforward answer to that is there were a lot of different backgrounds. So we had some students that were recent graduates who maybe had taken online courses. They were totally familiar with it, etc. We had some people who had been out of school for 30 years. So an online course was very new and different components to that were new. So just know that you're going to fit in no matter what, and you can always up your skill level. So what I mean by this is with the MPED program, we do an orientation in the summer, and typically there is a course on OWL, which is what I'm going to show you. So if you want to get comfortable with the system before your course starts, you want to practice, talking in the forums, doing some posts, some uploads, etc. You can certainly do that. So no one is going to get left behind because they're not familiar with online learning or the tools that we at Western use, because maybe you did your undergrad at Queen's or UBC and it's a totally different system. That's okay. We will make sure that you have no problem navigating that system. So that leads me into the forums themselves. So I'm going to open up the forum and show you what that looks like. Okay, so you are seeing here the forum, hopefully. Yes, someone tell me in the chat if you can't see it, but you should be able to see OWL. So we use OWL or Blackboard, Collaborate. Let's see. Yes, perfect. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so you can see it. And this is what it would look like if you were a student. So you would log into your portal and you would have your courses already there for you. So they're programmed in, etc. You have the calendar on one side, which will show any upcoming assignments. Now with MPED, it's, again, exception of TESOL, but MPED all the other streams, you're doing one course at a time. So you have one course at a time, your fall course, you have your fall professor, so it keeps it nice and straightforward. You would have your calendar on one side. You would have any kind of announcements or messages. So if your professor said, hey, look at this really great resource, or hey, can you watch this assignment date? I've made a change, etc. It comes right there. It's also linked to your email address. So if there are any changes in OWL, or maybe you get a paper grade, a grade for your paperback, an assignment, you will get emailed, notified to check that. So I'm going to jump in here. So it would also show you all the courses that you are registered in here. And I will show you an example of what this looks like. So I'm going to pull up, this was in 2017 when I started my MPED, what it looked like here. So this would be the homepage. So the overview of the homepage, like I said, you have your calendar, you would have a little introduction. Don't mind the dates, they're a little outdated because this was back in 2017. Now, when you graduate, eventually the courses come off. So that would be just something to be aware of. But if there were announcements, they would be here for you. So for example, we had some reminders, we had some case studies, a welcome from the different staff. So this what I'm showing is the summer course that I did in 2017. Not a course, it's more just like a part of the orientation you can do for fun. There's no real grades, but it gets you used to the system. So again, I was a relatively recent grad when I started my MPED. I still had never done an online course before, so I jumped in and took the opportunity in the summer to just kind of do a refresh here. But here would be what the forums look like. So the forums is where you are doing your engaging with the course and with your professor. So you'd have the introduction. Now this, as I mentioned, was the intro. So everyone went in and introduced themselves for the different streams that you can see here. So let me take you to the one I was in just for an example, equity. So Melanie, she posted this welcome and introduction. I can see here that there's some unread messages. I go in and here would be her post. So Melanie was the director of the MPED programs when I started in 2017. So part of our team here at the Faculty of Education, puts her message. And then it's as simple as just hitting reply. And that's how you reply and provide your details. So I don't know what to compare it to, like Facebook commenting or something like that, but the forums really, they are very self-explanatory. and it's a very user-friendly experience. So I'm not going to scroll through all these because it's other students, but you get an idea of what that could look like. And if you had your different courses, so here's module 1, time management. Again, this was a sample course, but they will embed videos right into the
One of the advantages to learning in an
program.
online environment is that you're given more flexibility to navigate course material on your own terms.
So there's just a little sample of a video. But if a professor had a lecture, right, they'd be right embedded into OWL. So you're not using a variety of different systems. Everything you need is right here for you. And you can access this, 24/7. It's always there for you. And if you had different assignments, you would submit your assignments. They're all here for you. You have your messages, whether they be with your peers or your professor. These are private messages, so not the forum. So if you wanted to ask your professor a question, you could typically email them, or you have that option. And then your grades are posted right here as well. So here's an example. I sent it again. This was just like a mock assignment here that we did, but it's right there for you. So everything you would need is right here in the system. Very easy to use, may look familiar to what you did in undergrad, or maybe if you did an AQ course, it's actually the exact same, I believe, with Western. So, and as you progress through your program, all of your different courses get added here. So while you're a student, they're all there. It's just once you graduate, they get archived. But that is the OWL system for you. So that's kind of navigating online learning from the systems perspective. And then let me bring back up the slide here. Okay, so then we'll just kind of close off before we open it to some more questions with just a few tips, if I can share those with you. Again, you may still be thinking about whether the MPED is right for you, whether online learning is right for you. You may be waiting for an offer, or maybe you've already decided you're coming, but these tips can just help with any kind of learning, but especially with Western. So first tip, I would say, develop a sense of community. So with that cohort, with those 20 students, it's really easy to do, but we encourage you to do that from the get-go. So those orientations in the summer, participate, get on there, meet some of your peers. It's not mandatory, but it gives you a little bit of that face-to-face component that the online learning doesn't traditionally have. So you get to know who they are. Even within Western, I was a Western staff member when I took the program in a different role, but there were a few of us from Western. So we took the opportunity to go for lunch together a couple times throughout the program, just to have that engagement outside. When it came to convocation, again, it's not mandatory to come to campus for the graduation ceremony, but a lot of our students did. And it was really nice to see them face to face after just knowing the name and knowing about them. But you can still create that sense of community. Remember that, yes, you're getting the graduate study, you're getting the graduate degree, the academic experience, but this is also a huge networking opportunity because these are your peers in similar areas of education or with ABA, similar industries. So, add them on LinkedIn, get to know them there. It's really, really easy to do that. Great question about group projects. So this differs by the stream. Some streams may have group projects. So generally speaking, we would say, yes, there may be, but from my experience, 2 years in the equity stream, I didn't have a single group project. So it really is going to depend on the professor. But I don't want to say, no, you won't have them, because it is possible. I would just say from my experience, I didn't have any. And I think that the professors recognize that, students have different commitments, family commitments, life, etc. But so it's possible, but I can't guarantee for that one. Get familiar with the technology. So I showed you OWL, you will see that with COVID, this has helped a lot too. It's just people are a lot more comfortable online than they were a few years ago. So, I say this here, but really, I'm sure you're very comfortable with your technology now, but that's something to help make you feel more comfortable, so it's not a barrier to your success. And the last part would be just creating that schedule and space that works for you. And again, you may be doing this with work from home, but with an online course, you have that flexibility. You have a lot of it in the sense of how are you going to divvy up your time? Creating some sort of schedule that works for you is going to really help with that, because otherwise it's going to be almost too flexible. So what I would say is, think about your work commitments, your family commitments. For me personally, I chose to kind of look at this 3 times a week. I would do Sunday mornings, I would watch the lecture, do my readings, I would prepare a post, then I'd maybe go back in Tuesday night, Thursday night, do some commenting on peers, etc. And then I had a few days that I just kind of turned it off, because otherwise you could be checking your email constantly. Oh, someone commented on this, someone commented. I also saw peers who definitely treated it, like I said, maybe like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they had their work week and then they had their school time. So you would see people that were really active at that time. So you'll fall into a bit of a natural flow, but just thinking about now preparing how you can fit those 10 to 15 hours of the MPED into your schedule is going to really help you not feel too overwhelmed or anything like that when the time does come. Okay, so wow, we did pretty good with 5 minutes left there. I'm going to open it up to any questions that anyone may have. You are welcome to put them in the chat or unmute yourself, of course. I've also provided email address there, edrecruit@uwo.ca. That is essentially me for the grad program. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me, as well as the grad office there. And I will just mention that we are running these, like I said, every Wednesday night for the rest of the month. The idea is just to give you that opportunity to have someone to talk to, which is me, which is your peers who are in this room. If you have any questions, please go ahead and ask that. Yeah, okay, the workload again. There are no tests or exams involved in the MPED, no. The exception is TESOL. Again, if you're here for TESOL, that's different because it's an on-site program, but for all of our other programs, there are no tests, no exams. It is all assignment-based. Or participation marks, assignments, etc. And workload, we say to prepare for about 10 to 15 hours a week on average. The courses, just so you know too, the fall and winter, they're 12-week courses. So if you do the math from Labor Day, that kind of brings you end November, early December. Then you would start your next course in January. And then in the spring and summer, the courses are actually 8 weeks. So they are a little bit more condensed. So maybe spring, summer is when you're going to look a little closer to that 15 hours of work per week. But if you are, some of our students are teachers, so that ends up working out well for them. But we say about 10 to 15 hours on average. Thank you for that question, Sarah. Okay, opportunities to take additional courses. Great question. And there aren't any with the MPED. I don't know if you wanted to take courses like outside of Western or anything like that. That would be something, it'd just be whether that institution is okay with you registering like at 2 institutions at once. But with the MPED, it really is just one course at a time. And that's due to the cohort structure where you travel with your class, as well as the scaffolding nature. So this brings up a great point. Thank you, Sarah, is that each course builds on what was taught in a previous course. So traditionally with the MPED, we don't allow transfer credit from, say you started a master's somewhere else, now you want to transfer in. It's rare to get transfer credit because we don't offer it with that scaffolded nature. And that's why you take one course at a time and you have to finish that course, then you can take the next course, finish that course, then you'll take the next one. And that's why you travel together with those 20 or so other students. So typically we would say, no, you wouldn't be taking additional courses. There isn't an option to like fast track it or anything like that. It has been designed really deliberately with the structure it has. Okay, and a question about the MPED TESOL, when would our classes start? So great question, one that I want to know as well. We don't really have the exact answer for that. So for TESOL, we're actually going to try and host or send out some more information this month, just kind of to engage with students again. So watch your email for some more communication this month. It's really up to the president of Western. So it's not even up to the Faculty of Education. It's up to public health guidelines, etc. Our president at Western, Alan Shepard, did just announce that he is hoping to bring everything back on site in September, but as you all know, that's extremely out of our control. So let's take that offline right now. Feel free to email me if you want me to look into this a little more, but I would also just recommend watch your email because we should be sending out some communications either next week or the following week for any of our MPED TESOL students who are wondering about the on-site delivery and kind of what those next steps are for you. So thank you here. We'll get back to you on that one. Okay, so yeah, I'll do a little plug for next week. We are talking, I believe next week is kind of about preparing for graduate studies for anyone who's been out of school for some time. So again, some more tips, tricks. Maybe we'll try and get a special guest or two in here to chat as well. And then we have a session on making your application stand out. So if anyone here has not yet applied and wants a bit of insight on that, there's a tuition and financing session. So they are all available on our website. Perfect. I saw someone said they had some questions they emailed. Thank you. That's great. That's what we're here for. Okay, this is a little bit selfish on my end that I miss seeing students and talking to them. So maybe a break from email, but you can always reach us via email, via these Zoom sessions. Just know that we're here to help you with your process. And yeah, I'm really glad to be able to be a support for people. So have a great evening, enjoy, and thank you for coming out tonight.